The Brazilian league is wild. I've talked about it before, and by the views and likes on this video, you guys seem to agree. It is an unpredictable show, not a league. It's really a show with drama, twists and turns that would put the Mexican telenovela to shame. But today, I'm not here to talk about that again. I'm here to show you all how the 2024 Libertadores Final was a masterpiece. 90 minutes of Hollywood-worthy action that culminated with one of the most feel-good moments in recent Brazilian history. In this video, we'll look back on what was one of the craziest football matches that I've seen this year. We'll reinforce how crazy and unpredictable South American football really is, and ultimately, we'll touch on what this win could mean for the future of Brazilian football. But first, let me give you some context. Botafogo are bottlers. Let's just get this out of the way, they're like the Spurs of Brazilian football. Just as an example, last year they led the league with a 13-point advantage. It was the best first half campaign in modern Brazilian history, but in the second half of the season, Fogo completely collapsed. In the first 19 matches, Botafogo amassed 47 points, but in the next 19, they can only get 17. You tell me, but I've never seen such a dramatic collapse in my 20 years as a football fan. This season, Botafogo hired Artur Jorge, another Portuguese manager, to add to the gigantic list of Tugas in Brazil. I didn't expect much from him though. He had the luxury of coaching one of the most stacked Braga sides in history, and he couldn't come remotely close to fighting for the title. So how could he coach a mentally broken team to victory in the most unpredictable league in the world? It was an incredible difficult mission, just as difficult as me recording this video with the current voice that I have. And regarding Botafogo, you never saw them dominate nearly as much as they did last year. Unlike what happened in 2023, Botafogo could never crack a huge lead, but on the other hand, they never broke down completely. Still, this is Brazilian football, and despite coming to the final on the back of a huge win against Palmeiras that put them in pole position to win the league, my experience tells me that that doesn't mean shit, much less when it comes to finals. On the other hand, Atlético Mineiro wasn't in good shape. The Roosters hadn't won a match since the 23rd of October. Ironically, their last win was a convincing 3-0 beatdown over River that practically guaranteed them their place in this Libertadores final. All in all, it was a tough year for them. The Roosters chose to focus on the Cups and not so much on the league. So after finishing as runners-up in the Brazilian Cup, they desperately needed to conquer this Libertadores. That's the tale of the tape. And now, I'll tell you exactly what I felt watching this match as a neutral. First of all, just as I was sitting down with my Portuguese girlfriend, who for some strange reason supports Botafogo, a player from Botafogo immediately gets sent off. They were already in a precarious situation since they couldn't count on their starting centre-back Bastos, and now they go and lose yet another important player in midfield after Gregory's brain-dead move. So, with less than a minute on the clock, we've already seen a guy get sent off and another one bleeding out of his scalp. Fuck whatever strategy Artur Jorge had come into this final, because now Botafogo would have to defend against an imposing front three of Vulk, Daverson and Pedrinho. But the problem was that Atletico didn't show any confidence whatsoever. Any half-decent club playing against 10 men from a team of bottlers should try to impose their game over their opponents, but Atletico took very little risk, and despite being in clear control of the match, they allowed Botafogo the first goal.
Ficou olhando mais uma vez a sobra do gol! Gol!
Only 5 minutes later, the Atletico goalkeeper commits a stupid foul in the box, and Botafogo, who are basically just trying to keep the goal intact, now receive their second golden opportunity without even having to do anything. Not gonna lie, despite not caring about Botafogo, it felt good to watch Alex Telles score that penalty. He was a legendary figure in my club, and it sucks to see how badly he's fallen off throughout the years. So, no matter how disappointing his tenure with Botafogo ends up being, he will always go down as one of the men who scored in this iconic final. And that was it. The first 45 minutes were on the books, with Botafogo comfortably leading, despite only having 20% of ball possession and one less player. But remember, this is Botafogo, so there ain't no way the club would win anything easily. You see, Atlético Mineiro was too forgiving in the first half. Gabriel Milito, who by the way looks nothing like the curly-haired guy I remember from Barca, had to do something. So he brought in 3 different players in one go. Eduardo Vargas, the top striker in Chile's back-to-back Copa America wins, former Sevilla right-back Mariano, and the guy that I will always be bitter against for choosing money over playing in a club that could have actually turned him into a superstar, Bernard. But hey, it worked. Vargas scored a beautiful header 2 minutes after the beginning of the second half and brought his club back to life. Botafogo trembled, and once again, the dark memories from a not so distant past reared their ugly head. Though I'm still curious about one thing, and maybe the Brazilians or South Americans in general can explain this. Is it that normal to see players almost crying and generally showing their feelings during matches? I know it's a final, but you rarely see this in European competitions. Either way, Atlético kept pressing, and that's where I started to feel sleepy. Botafogo locked down in the back, while Atlético just moved the ball around without creating too much danger. But then something woke me up, a distant childhood memory that filled my heart with empathy for the broken down man who could always rescue my club when it needed him the most. As a kid that grew up idolizing Hulk, it was really weird to realize that despite being almost 40 years old, he's still carrying his club as if he were the same player from 15 years ago. The sad part about it is there wasn't any Falcão to add his crosses into goal. And so, time and time again, we witnessed the same tired and frustrated look on his face, clearly passing the image of a team that had stopped believing before the final whistle. Meanwhile, Botafogo, who were supposed to crack at any moment, continued to stand strong. Well, not that they didn't commit several defensive errors, but at least Atlético wasn't capable of taking advantage. At the same time, while I was doing my research for this video, I came across the common notion that South American teams tend to play better when they're down one man. The theory is that they start playing a more organized way, and as a result, the opponent who isn't used to breaking down defensive walls tilts and fails to capitalize. Nonetheless, I have my doubts that there's any logic whatsoever behind what happened this past Saturday. Botafogo conceded many chances to Atlético, but just like any frustrated FIFA player, they just shot with all their strength at the first opportunity without even trying to find a better option. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Vargas. Like, what the fuck was this? And this? And why are you hiding your balding head by bleaching it? I didn't even recognize you at first. Sorry, that was out of pocket, but those shots looked like they came from an amateur striker that just got dumped by his girlfriend, so banter justified. Still, I gotta give props to Atlético, or at least to their fighting spirit. The Roosters kept going till the very end, but after one of their last attempts, Botafogo took advantage of Atlético's tired legs and finished their opponents for good.
Que jogada linda! Partiu pra área, olha o gol! Sobrou, voltou! Gol!
Botafogo finally reached the promised land. After decades and decades of being the butt of the joke, Botafogo are now on top of the world. And the road to get there was absolutely glorious. In the round of 16, Botafogo survived an offensive barrage by Palmeiras and scraped by to the quarters where they faced São Paulo. Botafogo had the advantage but suffered a late goal that should have demoralized them, but instead they fought back and won the tie on penalties. Then in the semis, they overcame the always tricky Peñarol with ease before this ultimate matchup. On the flip side, what a terrible year, not only for Atlético but for the state of Minas Gerais. Both Atlético and Cruzeiro finished as runners-up in continental competitions, while Atlético also had to endure a tough loss in the Brazilian Cup final against the team that always beats them in finals, Flamengo. On the pitch, everybody was crying. Some with joy, some with frustration, and others with the guilt of letting their team down when they needed them the most. This is football in its purest and rawest state. No elaborate tactics, no fear, and lots of chaos. That's what made me fall in love with the sport in the early 2000s, and it's this exact adrenaline that I need when watching a match. I don't want to watch something that I already know how it's going to end. I don't want to watch a match with teams that are more scared of losing than desperate to win. I want to put money on a match to make it interesting, and I don't want to limit my football watching experience to the teams that I care about. I want to know a little bit about as many diverse realities as possible, and Brazil has a vast selection of clubs that provide that exact feeling that I'm certain you miss from when you were a child. So, ultimately, what does this mean for the power dynamics in Brazilian football? Sorry to disappoint you, but it means absolutely nothing. Botafogo fans won't be as violently mocked because at least they won a Libertadores, but I'm not confident that this win will catapult them to a different level or guarantee their dominance in the upcoming years. At this point in time, only Palmeiras remains a consistent force in Brazilian football, while Flamengo is also up there due to the gigantic amount of supporters that make the club a shitload of money. Sure, Botafogo has a rich owner, and it does look like he genuinely cares about it. But look at what's happening at his other clubs. Lyon is in danger of getting relegated, Molenbeek got relegated last year, Crystal Palace is as mediocre as ever and also in serious risk of dropping to the championship. So, looking at Dexter's pedigree, it's hard to believe he could turn Botafogo into a South American giant and end Palmeiras' dominance once and for all. I would be surprised if they bottle the league with 2 matches left to play, but even if they don't, I still can't see them as the next big thing in Brazilian football. But I will dive deep into Botafogo's current situation in a future video, if you guys drop a like on this one, of course. I love my South American audience, you guys are really passionate, you always engage and add extra bits of info. So not only do these videos get more recognition, but I also learn from you guys, which is exactly what I want and what keeps me making videos about clubs outside of my own country. So, let me know if you want to watch a deep dive on Botafogo's wild 2 years, and let me know if you'd watch a video about the most underrated rivalry in the world, Remo versus Paysandu. For 2 clubs with no international expression, they create a wild atmosphere that's simply unmatched by most rivalries. It will take a long ass time for an outsider like me to do proper research in order to create a YouTube-worthy video, so I really need to feel your interest for this one. Once again, thanks for watching until the end, I appreciate your support, and I will see you in the next one.